Yeah. Somewhat.
And Coop's been around?
Yeah, we were just talking about that. It was his brother Odie was down here with me there a second ago.
Concerts on the college. His concerts.
T-shirts for sale, bidding on football helmets. There's more over there.
Tumbles down the family, so that's kind of.
And then they're going to start at 6:03 with one more coach.
Oh, yeah.
He gets in the ball game.
Oh, yeah.
There's different things.
You ridiculous guy.
That's for the ball game.
Mike's here too, I don't know where he went. I don't know. Look ain't different. A little bit of that off, yeah. Gotta take care of that. I know it's all
What's that? Probably something. Something like freedom. Yeah. How you doing?
I've seen him a long time. Yeah.
It doesn't really occur to me that I'm really leading the state in scoring, but yet it does. I look at the paper and see it, and it just isn't really that. It doesn't really seem like I am. It's just natural. I think the coach really doesn't let me score a lot, but yet I do. It just happens. The next thing you know, I have 6 touchdowns, like the Glenn game, and I don't know. I don't think I'd ever go to a bigger school. This is what I always wanted, just being in a small town. I don't think I'd ever want to go to a big town because, for one thing, I don't know if I'd be able to play 3 sports like I do here. And this town, it's just the whole town just supports you as an individual, and then in turn they support you as a team too. So I really like the environment. And I don't think I'd get any more recognition up there, like in South Bend, that I'd get here in Bremen. It's about the same, I think. And I think a college might look at how big a school you went to, but in turn, I think that a small school is just as big as a big. Hopefully I see myself in NFL. Hopefully. I really enjoy sports, and what I'm trying to do is play baseball down there too if I can get in. Hopefully I see myself in a pro sport. I'm really enthused about playing football. It's what I've wanted to do since I was real little. And I'm real happy, and I think my family's real happy for me, and the community is, and I'm just real glad I got a chance.
Hold in here. All right, Bremen is called ahead. It is a tail. Okay. All right. You're on offense. This is right now. How's that feel, Bo? Great, man, great! You guys are going to semi-state.
Yes, got him.
I'll be sure to hear. This is the biggest win ever for you?
Yes, this is. It's the greatest one I ever had. I played my heart out here. I just gave everything I got. I told coach before the game, or at halftime, we were coming back in here winners, and we did.
All you gotta do is look at the scoreboard and I'll tell you how I feel.
That's just the way it goes. Jim Tom's always had the luck, and now it's our turn.
Everyone can find a seat in the auditorium. We're going to start in a few minutes.
Hey, guys.
able to stand up here and introduce some of the gentlemen that you're going to see tonight, and to remember some of the historical background of the Bremen football program. I want to do some housekeeping chores on behalf of Troy. First of all, out in the bleachers, for those of you who registered, there'll be introductions on the field at halftime, and we have seats for you roped off in the bleachers for the game tonight. The records and yearbook photos that you have seen on some of the televisions out there are going to be online for you to download if you need that. And the last time I was in Mr. Holmes' office, we had about 3 boxes full of old films that are being converted to DVDs, and those will also be available once those get converted. As a sub-part of this, after everything is done tonight, after the game, I believe that there is a gathering of people at the men's still. That's not sponsored by the school, so go and have fun. I had the privilege of coming to Bremen High School in 1973. And at that time, I stayed on the back side of the building in the art room and interacted with the football program once in a while when they needed t-shirts, or once in a while when they needed things that were to be painted. But when I became principal, I had the privilege of being with the program for 22 years. And I have met every one of these people that's on here. They're outstanding people that you're going to hear tonight. First of all, one of our greatest competitors, I have a great deal of respect for this gentleman. I'd like to introduce through video, Bill Sharp. He's coached at Jimtown for 27 years.
Hi, my name is Bill Sharp. I'm the football coach at Jimtown High School. It has been my honor for the last almost 30 years to be able to compete against the Bremen Lions. I understand that you folks are celebrating 50 years of football, and I just want to let you know that in the years that I have been at Jimtown, some of the most memorable football games that I have ever been involved in have been with the Bremen Lions. I have had the opportunity to meet people like Coach Bungie, Coach Huber, Coach Jankowski, Coach Seneke, and of course Richard. You folks do a great job. You live in a tremendous community, and I have all the respect in the world for you. You remind me so much of Jimtown, the pride that you take in your school, the pride that the parents take in their children, and the way that you people compete. You've always been, for me, the biggest football game of the year, and I guarantee you that will continue to always be so. Thanks for all the special memories, Bremen.
Coached for 27 years at Jimtown. He has 277 wins, 53 losses, with a winning percentage of 83.9%, and he's won 4 state titles. He's a great competitor and a great friend of Bremen. The next gentleman that comes up is somebody who's a little busy tonight. He was a captain and an MVP of the 1988 team. An all-state defensive back, he played football at Manchester College. He was a Bremen High School assistant coach for 8 years, and the Bremen head coach since 2002. I don't think that's one of his kids. I'm pleased to introduce Coach Richard Moran.
Preparing a speech tonight was a little tricky to try and cover 50 years. Obviously, you don't have to be a mathematics genius to figure out that the early years would be a little tough for me to go back that far. But I am fortunate that both my uncles played on the varsity teams in the late 50s, so they were around from the beginning. So I've gotten to hear some stories and take me back to the late 50s and early 60s. But tonight, I want to thank Troy and the school for giving me the opportunity to stand up here and share what Bremen football means to me. I'm very proud of the efforts that everyone has put into our program for the last 50 years. Players go into battle every Friday night for various reasons, and one of the reasons that I still go into that battle Friday night is to represent our program because of what it stands for. Bremen football has created a lot of memories for a lot of players and this community throughout the decades, not just recently or 10 years ago, but since its beginning. And it's always been a special place in this community, and at times I even call it magical. Of course, I'm going to be biased towards Bremen football, but we also have the history to back that up. I'm not sure if there's anything I can tell you about Coach Bungie that you don't already know. He's an amazing man and even a better coach. He still comes to practice at least twice a week, sometimes 3, and we've got to figure out, he only stays till 5 o'clock, so we're assuming his supper's ready and he's ready to hit the road. But Coach Bungie, thanks for giving us Bremen football. After Coach Bungie's retirement, and then the state finally settling on a tournament format, Bremen football was put on the map across the state. Coach Seneke inherited the program, and after his 3rd year, we realized that we could not only compete in the area, but we could compete across the state. Coach Huber took over the program and led us through our glory years. And I use that term loosely because football was very good for us here at Bremen and in this town from the late 80s through the mid-90s. But we also know that had the state tournament been in a different format earlier in the 70s and early 80s, that we would also have some glory years before the current glory years. So, like I said, I use that loosely because we've had some very good teams that just because of the state tournament format never really got recognized for the greatness that they played this game. Outside of the trophies and the championships, I am just as proud of the reputation of Bremen football that was established over the decades, especially during the Northern Lakes Conference years. As you know, we're the little kids on the block, and we stood toe-to-toe with the big dogs in the neighborhood every Friday night. Our fierce, hard-hitting play won the respect of our bigger competitors. If one thing is a little redundant in this speech, it's Bremen football. I truly feel it is more than just football. It's Bremen football. I would like to thank each and every one of you for your part in the program over the last 50 years. I hope this weekend you can share and reminisce about your experiences that were made during your football years at Bremen High School. And P.S. We will sing our fight song tonight at the end of the game.
Richard is right. We have a long-standing tradition. Whenever our players walk out on that field, they play to win. It doesn't matter what the season record is, and they play hard. One example of that is a coach that comes up next. He spent many years as a Bremen head coach, 10 years. He's a 4-year letter winner in football from 1968 to 1971. He includes in that time of coaching the state championship in 1994. He's participated in the background of many of the championships that we've had. He's got 92 wins, 29 losses for a 76% winning ratio. He was a BHS football assistant coach for 10 years and head girls basketball coach for 15 years. He's a good friend, and I appreciate his time with the Bremen program, Coach Marty Huber.
Thanks, Don. I'm honored to be part of this celebration and also part of this football program. I've been around the program a long time, and I'm going to kind of separate this into my long time. When I was 5, 6 years old, is when I first got my first taste of Bremen football because my brother was playing, and I can remember the picnics at my house one time, and standing around there, and they came down, and matter of fact, my mother's got pictures of it. That all the players came down, they had some kind of picnic at our house, and that's my first taste of football. Of course, playing. Coach Bungie, he taught you the meaning of hard work and what it meant, and no excuse type of attitude. I also remember the assistants he had: Big Judd, Fritz, Mike Kaiser, Shriver, Price, and all those guys. I mean, they put endless amount of hours in preparing us for battle every week. And like Coach Morin said, they had us ready every week. And that was through organization and hard work. And that's something that Coach Bungie has always taught me. Being an assistant coach under Coach Bungie, one thing I'll never forget was I think it was like my second year And it's a head coach's duty to evaluate his assistant coaches. And being green coming in, it just felt to me, I was a young kid, it just felt to me that I was spending about every waking hour preparing for football, watching film, practicing, doing everything that needed to be done to get the kids ready in all my evaluation that year. And this is something I'll always thank Coach for, is it prepared me for later. That he put on my evaluation that it needs to spend more time preparing for football. And that taught me at that time that, you know, I thought I was doing the job that I needed to do, but in essence I wasn't. And then, of course, being the head coach of Bremen, you know, what I always remember, you always remember the great players, but the ones people don't remember are the ones that are the role players. Kids like Pete Roderwall back in '94. He didn't get to play a lick on our offense, defense, but he's the best holder in the league. And he accepted his role, and he performed it to a T. Another guy I always remember is Sean Marks. He's a senior in '94 when we won the state championship. We finally got him on the field at the end of the game for a little guy. But the other seniors on that team wouldn't do anything without him. He stuck through the program. And that's really what Bremen football is all about. It teaches about life, and it teaches about a lot of different things. There's no other game, you know, that teaches you the life skills that football does. You know, you gotta work together, you sacrifice yourself for others. You gotta handle adversity. You gotta, you know, you learn that hard work does pay off. You learn to play a role in something bigger than yourself. And you learn to be responsible for one another. And I think that's what Bremen football is really all about. Today it's a different game. I mean, when I was playing, if Coach Bungie asked me to run through a brick wall, I'd ask him how hard. Today, if you ask a kid to run through a brick wall, he'd ask you why. It's a different kid, it's a different time. But really, it's the same. Coaches have to change with people, and I think we've done well at adapting. This year we're having a tough year. But I tell you, these kids are learning to handle adversity, and I guarantee you, you're going to see a better team on the football field tonight because they have not given up. And that's it. There's one fact that has prevailed throughout the entire 50 years of Bremen football, and that's a credit to Coach Bungie, and that is, if you play Bremen, you better buckle it up, or you're going to get hit. And I guarantee you that'll never die. You know, to me, Bremen football, 50 years, that's amazing to think about. I'm just glad that I've had the opportunity to be a part of it. My blood runs green, and it always will. You know, if only the earth out here and over there could talk, you'd hear some great stories. Thanks a lot for lobbying this, and thanks, Coach.
We had a pep session in the gym prior to the state championship. And at that time, I pulled the entire team out onto the floor, pulled all of the kids who were in Bremen Community Football and sat them down in front, pulled all the players who had ever played Bremen football and stood them in back, and connected them to the people in the bleachers. And that's what Bremen football is all about. The connection between all these kids working for the community. And you see them every Saturday and Sunday down at the park. You see them every Friday night here on the football field, Monday nights on the football field, Saturday mornings at the JV practices. It's truly a community sport. Way back in the early 70s, or late 70s, we had a gentleman who did an outstanding job as a captain He was the 1979 captain and MVP of the football team. He was all-conference first team and all-state defensive end. He played college football at West Point and Purdue. He's been coaching for over 20 years at Purdue. He coached BHS, Central Catholic, and now McCutcheon High School. He's the head coach of the Central Catholic State Champions and does one heck of an impersonation of Patton. I'd like to introduce you Scott Muncy by video.
Hi, I'm Scott Muncy. Troy Holmes asked me if I'd say a couple words or think back on some of my reflections of Bremen football, and I'm happy to do it because I graduated in 1980, so I played back in the late 70s. Had the great honor, of course, of playing for Coach Bungie, and I'm sorry I can't be with everybody this weekend. It's quite a celebration. And believe me, I'm proud to be a part of the history of Bremen football. Whatever small part I might have had in it as part of who I am today, and it's helped to mold and guide me. And here I am, 30 years later, and I'm still coach. I'm still involved in football. I'm coaching football here at McCutcheon High School. I've had the opportunity of playing high school, of coaching high school, winning a state championship, being part of state championship attempts as a coach back there in Bremen, coached a little bit at Purdue, and now here I am coaching at McCutcheon High School down here in Lafayette. I look back and really everything goes back to Bremen and being a part of Bremen football, and probably especially being able to say that I played for Coach Bungie. You know, the time I was growing up, I heard from my dad, you know, well, wait till Bungie gets hold of you. You think you got it tough now? Wait till Bungie gets hold of you. And so he was a legend around our house. You know, even as I grew up, you know, I always heard Bungie stories about, you know, wait till Bungie gets a hold of you. And eventually, I got my chance to get up there, and Bungie got a hold of me, and he did a good job with me, I think. So you know, I think back on Bremen and what it meant to be part of Bremen football, and you start to remember your times and the guys you played with. And you know, I remember back in just listening to the old man. I still hear the old man, you know, holler in the back of my head. You know, he had his own voice, had his own manners, and own way about him. You know, I was just a dumber, as Bungie'd say back in the day. But I was fortunate enough to be able to play as a sophomore son, start on offense, and I remember one day out there at practice, we're running some play, and we messed it up. You know, I'm sure, I don't know what we did or what the play was, but you know, I hear the old man in the back, you know, somewhere in the background going, "Muncy, Mobash, Waterhouse, you three guys are the worstest players I've ever seen. Take off." Well, we all knew back then, you know, what take off meant. That meant you had a nature hike, and we went out around the baseball field, and off we went. Were we the three worstest players he'd ever seen? Probably not, you know, but it didn't matter who you were, because everything, you were all equal. You were going to get your rear end chewed if you were a star of the team, or if you were just coming in off the bench. You know, you had to know your stuff, and you had to get out there and get it right. You know, Mobash and Walterhouse, myself, I think all ended up being all conference, and I think we're all state and all that kind of stuff. You know, so were we the worstest players you'd ever seen? No, probably not. And we knew that when he's chewing us. You know, we knew we were okay. We knew we were getting, you know, but we also knew we messed up. So you went out and, you know, you did your run, and you came back, and you got back in the drill, and you did better next time. You know, that's just, you know, those are the humbling things. You know, I think, you know, it didn't matter who you were. You're liable to get your rear end chewed. Like I say, I did okay. You know, but I was a dumber, you know, and I remember, as Bungie would say, and we had this thing, you know, you always hear about some of the old guys in the past, you know, and I remember hearing about, you know, we used to have to go Ronnie Reeker right on ready, you know, I said, Ron, geez, I knew Ron. He couldn't get snap count right, you know. Well, I kind of took over that legacy that Ron left me, because probably Rochester game or something like that. I know we were on the road, and you know, I'm a sophomore, just full of it, ready to get out there and get her done. And Jay Leeper, quarterback, and we're on the line. He starts going through the snap count, and I pull, step, throw that elbow, get ready to pull down the line, and I'm looking right in the ear hole of Jay Leeper, underneath the center. Oh crap! You know, I jumped off side. I come back down, get down. I threw the flag, whistle blow, mark it off. You know, Bungie gone on the sideline, and everybody looking at getting the evil stares from my teammates. You know, again, sophomore kid, new kid up there. And these guys look at me like, you know, you numbered, and, you know, come back, run a couple plays, you know, here we go, get down again. We're probably, you know, 3rd and short or something. No, got to get a big play. Down, set, and I jump off again, you know, pulled out again. Get Stuckman in there, get Muncie off the field, you know, come over. You dumber, what the heck, you know, can't even get off on the right snap count, da-da-da. Well, you know, from that time on, I think through the rest of my high school career, we had what we called Muncie count, you know. Muncie count was we were going to go on first sound, you know, because even Muncie can't jump off if we go on the first sound. So, you know, we had Muncie count, you know. That kind of something I got hung with for a while, and I earned it, you know. But it was just like I say, you know, I was all right as a football player. Ended up playing a little bit in college and stuff, and it's like, but it didn't matter who you were. You were gonna, if you messed up, you're gonna hear about it. So I got Muncie count labeled hung on me, but I'll blame him, because it was an inspiration I had, because I wanted to get off and get up there and get somebody, you know. And I remember another time that year we had give us one of those great halftime inspirational talks. You know, we talking about the history. You know, Coach was, you know, the great thing about playing with Coach Bungie, you know, he was the tie-in back to the history of the school, you know, and the history of football there. You know, we had a great tie there, you know, and we grew up hearing names like Duke Andrews and Zed Hendricks, and the old Zed Hendricks stories, and Paul Hunt. You know, I had a great opportunity to play with Robin, you know, so Coach, you know, you're your Uncle Paul, you know, and you just hear those stories about what a tough son of a gun he was, and you know, those were the guys that you were going to have to try and live up to. You know, you were playing for the same guy, for the same school that some of these great players played at, and it was a legacy that we carried on. We really felt that we went out there. We weren't just playing for ourselves. That we were playing for all of Bremen football. We were playing for the history of the game. And you know, my dad goes back in, you know, and he coined the phrase there, the long green line, and that's a little reference to the long gray line out at West Point, but it was really a nice description of what we felt like, because there was a tie to the history, to the past of the Bremen football. And I think this 50th anniversary that people put back together there for that first Bremen team, which is a great opportunity to kind of reflect back on the history of Bremen, and everybody that's played there understands what it meant to be a Bremen football player. I remember great halftime speech by Bungie. You know, he starts talking about, you know, days of yore. You know, we used to have guys that were so tough. They'd go up there, they'd just point at the line. They'd say, "That's where we're going to run. I dare you to stop us." You know, I'm again back there, sophomore, wide-eyed, listening to this. Yeah. So we get out there second half, and I can remember we were playing LaVille, I think. LaVille was a pretty good team back then for a couple of years, or at least that year. And they come up, and you know, we go up to the line, and I got, you know, Tom Walterhouse and Brian Fox and Mike Mobash, and you know, we go up there, you know, it's like, here's Dumbard Muncie, we're gonna run right here, you know, and these guys just looking over at me once again thinking, you are the biggest idiot I've ever seen, you know. But you know, I was inspired, so we come off, got our butt handed to us, because you know, that's just not a real smart thing to do there, and come back and just catching from those guys, you know. But I was young and dumb, and I was easily inspired, so Coach Bungie inspired me to do to call out the play for the other team, and it didn't work out so good. But you know, another one I think about is one that I love talking to my coaches today, you know, about every place I've been, you know, we start handing out jerseys, and kids are the same today as they were back then, you know. Everybody comes in and you wanted, you know, I always wanted Dick Butkus' number, or somebody wanted Walter Payton's or Gale Sayers, you know. We always had your favorite players, and you know, just like today, everybody wants to wear their jersey, you know. So you get there in line and you know, Coach, can I get 51? Coach Bungy reaches the box, 62, throw your jersey. Hey, thanks, Coach, you know. Yeah, and so next guy come up, you know, Coach, I was 42 last year, you know. You running back? Yeah, Coach, I was 42 last year, 36. Again, you know, back then, you know, at first you just thought, wow, I can't even have my jersey, you know. It's like, but what a great, just a humbling experience, you know. I mean, just, hey, it's just a jersey. You're playing for your school, you know. It's not about what number you wear or anything like that. You're playing Bremen football. It's not about you. It's about the team. And I love telling that story to this day, because we still get kids come in, you know, Coach, I was 14 last year. You gave me 15 this year. It's like, go, get away, go play football. So that's part of what it meant to play for Bungy and for Bremen. You know, it was humbling. You weren't playing for yourself. You know, we had no superstars. You know, we had good players. We knew who the good players were. You know, Robin Hunt and you know, my years and Swain and Graverson and Ken Adams and all those guys were great high school players. But it was never about one individual. One about any one of us. It was about everybody. It was about the team. And it really was an honor to play for Coach Bungy back in the day, and hopefully that a lot of that tradition can still continue. I know Coach Moran was a part of it back when Coach Huber ended up playing. You know, again, we still got that connection back to the back. Coach Huber was coaching, and I know Moran right now he's got tough times. We're going through tough times here at McCutcheon. But the one thing that we always had at Bremen was, you knew when you played Bremen football, they were going to hit you. And I hope we still got that going now. Because when you played Bremen football, we weren't always great teams. We didn't always win all of our games or anything, far from it. But one of the great things we love to read in the paper is have other coaches say, man, we got hit. You know, when you play Bremen, you're in for a ball game. And that's something I'm hoping that we can establish here at McCutcheon, here at the school I'm at now. You know, we trying to hang our head on something. We're struggling. We don't win a lot of games, but I'll tell you what, we're getting better every week, and we're gonna hit people. That's Bremen football. You know, and that's the type of football I hope we can bring carry with us and bring to the school I'm at now, and carry with us on into life. Because you're not always going to win them, but it's kind of how you play the game. You want to go in and play with intensity and a little chip on your shoulder and get after them. Like back on, you know, go back to that. My senior year, then we played Goshen, and this back when we were the NLC. We were just getting ready to get out of the Northern Lakes, and big rally, and the rally was. Goshen made a comment of we were too small to be in the Northern Lakes Conference, which is probably true, and it all panned out that, you know, it's probably the right thing to do was to get out of that conference. But daggone it, that didn't feel good to have somebody tell us we were too small to play them. And Goshen was coming off of a state championship year in '79, I think, or '78, and we went out and whooped them, beat them 26, and that was probably one of the best wins I've ever experienced in my life. Having somebody try and put down my school, put down Bremen, saying we're too small to compete with them, and we showed them, and that's kind of what Bremen football, again, that's Bremen football, that's what it's about. So I wish I could be with everybody up there, be a part of weekend celebration and the 50th, but I'm trying to carry on Bremen football traditions in my own life, and again, still coaching here after 30 years and loving it, and it's nice to think back on my times at Bremen. So best of luck to everybody back there, and I hope you guys get it together on the football field and make a great second push here in the second part of the season. Go sneak up and get somebody, stay together, play hard, and all you Bremen fans and former players, miss you, and get behind the Lions. They need you right now. Thanks.
That's what the whole symbol of the small B on the side of the helmet is about. There's no one player that's any bigger than any of the rest of the team. It's an incredible legacy to pass from team to team, and it still goes on from the early times all the way up to now. I'd like to introduce now the captain of the 1967 football team, all-conference first-team guard and middle linebacker, longtime Bremen tennis coach, volunteer, Mr. Mark Wagner.
Why did I have to file months? I want to thank Troy and the people who put this together for even inviting me. If you notice, I think I'm the only non-football coach on this agenda tonight, so I'm just an old football player, so I appreciate that opportunity. I shouldn't personalize this, but Mike Miley's here with Cindy tonight. Mike, I got to tell you, you got courage to come tonight, so I got to recognize you. It's 27-0, Coach, wasn't it? 28, sorry. I think it's 27, Coach, but that's going to go with the story I'm going to tell too. But Coach, I don't know if you remember that game, but I don't know who the coach was over there. Miley would know, but if I recall right, that was the coach that thought he had this new way of punting, where the punter stood up real close and he made you run around and try to block the punt. And I still remember you saying, we're going to block 4 punts against this system. And I think we sent everybody up the middle. How many we blocked, Mike? 4? All over. You know, that's the part I remember about Coach Bungie, is that he figured everything out. And he told us what we had to do to win. And invariably, he was right. And this kind of leads in, they told me I'm supposed to tell old stories, and this kind of leads into my story, because Coach Bungie always was right, but sometimes it took us longer, some of us longer to learn that than others. But I got to kind of lay some groundwork. I heard somebody chuckle because they know me, and I always think I'm right, and I did back then too, so I'm sorry. But I was captain of the 1967 team, and basically, a little lighter, but I was still a short little fat guy, so that was a big deal to be the captain when you were a lineman. I remember Ted Huber playing as a quarterback, and he was somebody I remember when I was just a kid. And he was the quarterback, and I have my offensive lineman theory. I'll tell you about that someday too. My wife served for 50 years, but anyways, it's usually the stars of the team that are the captains. But I was fortunate enough that year to be the captain, and we were playing Rochester, Coach. I hope you don't remember this, but we had a pretty good team that year too, and we should have beat Rochester easily, but I think we came into halftime, we were down 14-7. But it's curious because it was homecoming weekend, and I asked you to set the stage, set the scene. You got this short little fat guy who's the captain, and back then the captain got to give the homecoming queen roses at halftime. And it wasn't Cindy or Susan. I was in between those two. It'd been great if it were, but the little 1967 captain had, really thought this is going to be a pretty big deal. I get to give the homecoming queen roses. And I thought about it all week. Okay, I thought about it for 3 weeks beforehand. Okay, I thought about it from the time I became captain. Short little fat guys in high school, we don't usually do too well. Okay, so, but anyway, so I came into that game and I talked to Coach Bungie beforehand, and he kind of gruffed at me. I said, now, Coach, I'm supposed to go out before halftime's over and give these flowers, and you're okay with that? And you're okay, yeah, do it. Just remind me. And we even had the flowers in the locker room, so I was supposed to take the flowers out and give to the homecoming queen. So, again, short little fat guy, he was really into this, okay? But it so happened during that Rochester game, we were behind, like I say, and we came into the locker room and Coach started talking to us, and the first thing he said was the type of defense they were in. And again, I know this will surprise all of you that know me, but I disagreed with him. I
said, Coach, I think they're in this defense. And I don't really remember where I ended up sitting after I said that, but Coach, and again, you know, as your attorney, I probably wouldn't suggest you do this today. Marty's right, is a different kid, but I know I wasn't sitting in the same place that I was when you know, when I made that comment to you, and you certainly got my attention. But and Coach, I don't even know if you know this story, but the other thing you got was you got my fear again. Now picture this. Here's the captain. You know, I've waited all this time to go present the flowers to the homecoming queen, and I'm scared to ask Coach, can I leave? And Coach, you know, you went through your normal halftime inspiring speech, and I'm sitting there saying, oh my God, what am I going to do? You know, the flowers are here. Now, picture this out on the field. You know, whoever was the MC at the time, they're waiting, where's Wagner? You know, where's the flowers? You know, they announce the homecoming queen, you know, and I'm supposed to be there with these flowers. Well, can I ask for a show of hands, which I can't see, but how many of you think I worked up the courage to ask for a show of hands? I didn't. The flowers wilted. They instead decided to give them to the queen the next night at the homecoming dance. I had to go and buy a new dozen roses, Don. You owe me, Don. I'll settle up with you later. True story, I went and bought a dozen roses, and you know, again, it was an interesting time. I didn't have that kind of money, so, but I tell you, the reason I tell this story is that the people that talked before me are on tape. You know, Don didn't care that I was the senior captain and supposedly a bright guy. All he wanted to do was win that football game. And, you know, he knew what it took to win that football game, and I was pretty wet behind the ears, and I really didn't. And as I recall, I don't remember the score exactly, but I know we won. I think it was 35-14. And surprise, surprise, they were in the defense that Coach Bungie said they were in. And surprise, surprise, he had figured it out over the course of halftime. And like I say, we went and scored at least 4 or 5 touchdowns and just killed them. But, you know, the point of my story is this. You know, my dad died when I was very young. And my brother and I played football. And we had a father figure and a role model in Don Bungie. And it goes beyond Bremen football in the sense that, you know, he is Bremen football, and all the comments that people have made about what Bremen football means comes from what Don Bungie taught us. And we're so fortunate that most of the people that have coached at Bremen learned under Don and have carried that tradition on. But, you know, my mother raised 3 boys, and she was a single parent before it was cool to be a single parent. And we needed somebody in our life in addition, although I'll say this, she's sitting in the back and she'll throw things at me, but I can never remember looking up at a football game when my mom wasn't there. But Coach Bungie, you were why I played football, and you were why I stayed out for 4 years, and you taught me so much and contributed to the man I am today more than you'll ever know. And you heard Don introduce me as a longtime tennis coach. Well, it probably, most of you, if you know me, don't realize that that's because of Coach Bungie too. It's a different kid, a different time, Marty's right, but back in those days, you had to play a spring sport according to Coach Bungie, or the worst of it was you had to work out with him instead. When I was a freshman, I ran track, and Coach, you brought a student teacher in to work with Danny Wagner, who'd been to the Olympic trials. That guy about killed me. And I said, I'm not doing track anymore. So the next year, Coach, because you said spring sport, I tried out for the golf team, but I got cut. And so then I'm thinking, oh boy, it's back to track again. And then some crazy Italian guy came and started the tennis team. And Coach, I can still remember you looking at me when I said I was going to play tennis, and you said, tennis, that's not a sport. But I mean, I think I just heard down and that's true. But I want to tell you, Coach, you're the reason why I'm still doing tennis today, and you're the reason for so much of what I am today. And I I really never had an opportunity to thank you as much as I'm doing tonight. So I really thank the planners for this opportunity to talk about Coach Bundy moving forward.
There's nothing wrong with short, fat guys. We've had some tremendous games. I've had the privilege of standing on the sidelines or being in the stands for some amazing contests. Some were more unique than others. Games where the fog rolled in and you couldn't see the ball. Punts being returned, nobody knew where the players were. Standing on the sidelines, watching birds fly backwards in snowstorms. Standing on the sidelines and watching mud bogs out in the middle of Jim Town's field on the state championship run. Just amazing times. Our next presenter, assistant coach under Bungie from 1972 to 84, head coach at Bremen High School 1985 to 1987, head coach and assistant coach at Northridge. He has played football. He played football at VHS and graduated in 1967. He's here by video, Dennis Seneca.
Good evening, and thanks for inviting me to speak with you tonight on this wonderful occasion of the 50th anniversary of Bremen football. When Troy Holmes first asked me to do this, I thought, sure, why not? Go ahead. And the closer you get to actually putting something down, I realized this is an immensely difficult task to try to put into words what Bremen football has meant over a course of 50 years. So I came across tons and tons of memories, some good, some not so good. All of them are treasures, though. And the thing that strikes me the most is it's not necessarily wins and losses that make Bremen football what it's been over the years. It's those memories, it's the relationships you build, it's the community support that we've received for the football program over those years. It's the leadership of the coaches, the sacrifices of the players that have made such a difference over the years. So let me try to put that into words the best I can. 50 years ago, it started with Coach Bungie, and as the coach, he set forth a lot of high standards for what his teams would try to achieve. Standards like hard work, dedication, commitment, excellence, the spirit of competitiveness, that fire that burns within any individual, that desire to bring out the best, that willingness to take on all competition and be willing to stand there, win or lose, and say that I gave it all I had. Pretty soon, those standards, and I don't know when this happened, but pretty soon they became expectations. I know that when I played, and it was only 10 or 11 years after the fact, that there were certain expectations that went with being a Bremen football player. When you put on that uniform, it was to play to the best of your ability. It was to come together, to compete fiercely, to play within the rules, to be committed to being good. And sometime again, as the time went by, those expectations then became tradition. It now develops itself into standards, expectations, and now tradition. And the tradition carries on. That tradition is what lasts, despite the fact that there have been people in that head coaching position that have changed over the years. The constant is that tradition. All started by Coach Bungie and supervised by him through time, inherited by those of us who were fortunate enough to take its place and take our rightful place there as coaches. And it was that tradition that fed each one of us, I think, and tried to make the best we could of whatever Bremen team we were associated with. Because that was what you did for your team, for your teammates, and for the thing that had become Bremen football over time. That tradition then becomes the legacy that every player leaves behind. You know, what did I do to help build Bremen football, to help make it better than it was, be better than the year before, years before? What did I do to make that happen? So all of that comes from that one competitive desire and fire in Coach Bungie, but it's passed along. I think it was Kenny Muncie who first started that term about the long green line, and it's very true today. Every player that comes through, this is your place now. This is your point in the legacy. Are you willing to step up and carry on? That's been what's constant over the 50 years of Bremen football, and that's been what's so good about it. As I wrap this up, I want to thank the community for all the years of support. You've been very good and very loyal, and it's been just fun at whatever times I can to get back to see Bremen football. It's just been a pleasure to do. I also want to thank Coach Bungie. I want him to remember those nights that as an assistant coach, he and I would walk home after practice and talk about the day's events and share what would come next. And we'd share some of our concerns, some of the things that we felt we were doing well. Those are the things that I'll carry with me forever. And as we enter tonight, I hope people can understand that this is a celebration of more than just football teams. It's a celebration of young players stepping in to take their spot in the history of what Bremen football is, and to carry on that legacy and to carry on that long green line and to make it what it is even now after 50 years. Have fun this evening and really enjoy yourselves with visiting and I hope everything can continue in the future, that we can continue to build, and 50 years from now, who knows, somebody else will be standing here in front of you doing the same thing and talking about 100 years of Bremen tradition. Good night.
Played at Ball State for 4 years. He was the head coach of the following schools: Greensburg, Hamilton Heights, Bloomington South, and Warsaw. He was an assistant coach at Indiana University, Northern Illinois, and Ball State. He's a member of the Indiana Hall of Fame. He played Bremen High School football from 1956 to 1959 and was a standout quarterback. I'm pleased to introduce to you Ted Huber.
Senior chords, 1960. Letter jacket, 1958. If I buckle it, I can't breathe. But I bet Alan doesn't know where his letter jacket is.
I also want to thank Troy for allowing me to be here. Obviously, Bremen, Indiana, and Bremen football has been my whole life. We're blessed to be a part of it. And what I think about is back when it all began. Back in the middle 1950s. The coaches and the players come to mind. The words dedication, practice, and planning from Coach Bungie are at the heart. Now the dedication. The coaches I can remember when we all began this thing, obviously Coach Bungie was the head coach. Coach Nearseed, who I'm sure you all know, was there. Coach Teedy was the head basketball coach after Coach Bungie, and also an assistant. And then a real young guy named Coach Don Armstrong was there. Now, when you think about the magnitude of starting a football program, first of all, you coach coaches, because none of these guys had coached football before. And you coach players who had never played organized football. You get the equipment. You start a football field. And you have, and I read in the paper, where the Corps of Engineers come out and smoothed it off. But I can tell you one thing. We went out there and picked up the rocks. All right? This is one rock, you wouldn't believe it, but I just got a rock here for my dad today, but that is symbolic to me, because we would walk back and forth, picking up the rocks before they planted the grass. And also to get everybody headed in one direction. And as everybody that I heard speak tonight talk about, doing it the right way, the Bremen way.
Now, as far as practice is concerned, and nobody likes to practice, all right? But I coached football myself, high school and college, for 39 years. And for the most part, it beat working. Now, there were some times when I wasn't sure. But my coaching philosophy was a result of my experience here at Bremen High School and with Coach Bunny. He was years ahead of his time with practice plans, practice philosophy, and the expectations and treatment of players. You know, we won game after game because we were put in a position to do that. Now, I started thinking about, I looked in the paper, who are the we's? We won game after game. Who are the we's? Well, I think in 1957, who the seniors were. All right? Bill Burgess, Mike Heckman, Don Lynch, Don Morris, Ken Muncie, who I saw tonight, Bill Rao, Mike Scott, Bob Wolf, and Don Yeri. These were great leaders, but more importantly, they were tough kids now. I'll tell you what, you didn't play here unless you were to start out with. Now, I was fortunate enough to play college football. And I can remember one time on the field that I never forgot, and I think it helped me when I played, and I know it helped me when I coached. But I can remember playing a linebacker, I suppose. I don't know, maybe I was a defensive back. But I can remember running pursuit of the football to the sidelines, and I kind of let up a little bit, and Don Yerian ran right straight over the top of me and knocked me out of bounds. And he was my teammate. All right? And I got up and, I said, and he said, hey, if you are not going to run to the football, then get off the field. He said. Now, he's a year older than me, maybe he's 2 years older than me. That stuck with me. All right? And I think that helped me become a fairly decent football player along the way, and I know it helped me in coaching. But it happened at Bremen High School, and it happened under Coach Bundy. And I think of some juniors, there was and I saw John Sylvia up here. I think he was in that class with Kaufman and Ben Heckman and Greg Bolt. Those guys were in between the seniors. And then our group, who I saw, Dale Allen, who come all the way up here from Florida. I think the tornado blew him up here. Richard Baker I saw tonight. The Hand Twins, Larry and Terry and Tony Zentz. Dale asked me, have you seen Zentz? No, I haven't seen Zentz. But I think about those guys, and then I think about the class that was behind us, who was Gary Allen, Dale's brother, Duke Andrews, and I know Bo Hunt was a heck of a football player. I know he was, and I know he got 10,000 yards and all that. But if you ever got a chance to see Duke Andrews play, I guarantee you'd think he was pretty good. And he was in that group with Gary Allen and Dean Baker and Butch Kuntz and Tony Schwartzlander. And this was the group that started it all. All right? This is the group that started it all. And it got ours where I was a junior, and when I was a senior, both years, we started in the Northern States Conference. We were 5-0, 5-0. We would have been undefeated one year, but Culver Military kicked the field goal with 1 second to go to beat us by 1 or 2 points. And I've never forgotten Don Farr for that. He was the timer. All right? And I did not, and it happened right out here. Happened right out here. And to this day, I don't understand how a timer at Bremen High School could let 1 second on the clock. Now, personnel-wise, and this is where I think Coach was way, way ahead of his time. All right? Each week we would be put in different positions on defense, according to what the offense's strengths were. And then we would practice it all week, and then we were pretty good. Now, I can remember the first time we beat Plymouth. All right? Plymouth had been playing for 25, 30, 40 years, whatever it was. He'd been playing for years. And I think I was a junior, but anyway, I was a quarterback, and they had a single wing offense. And that week, I was assigned to be the strong side defensive end. And we had, in those days, rib pads that we put on. Well, I put 3 rib pads on. One up here, one here, and one down here. And if you know anything about the single wing, that means they had that power sweep or the power, whatever you want to call it. And my job, as soon as it came, was to sacrifice my body in front of all those people. Because they had the backs, they had the guys pulling, sacrifice my body in front of those people so that people come up and make the tackle. All right? I was a quarterback. All right? Now, but as somebody mentioned, I don't remember which one it was, we never questioned that. I think it was my brother, Marty. We never questioned it because we knew it was the right thing to do. Now, I ain't going to talk as long as Muncie did. Thank God. So in conclusion, I've talked about dedication, practice, planning, and the players. But I know everybody here knows it, and you can't hear it enough. There's only one reason that Bremen football is respected the way it is. One. And that's Coach Don Bundy. He's a rare breed. All right? He's a rare breed. He's a man who dedicated his life to Bremen, Indiana. He had numerous opportunities, I'm sure, to go to bigger schools, to coach college football, but he chose to remain here. And I think hundreds, probably thousands of lives were better because of Coach Bundy. And we could never repay him, only thank him and Mrs. Bundy for their lifelong example, dedication, love, and loyalty to us here and also to all of us in the long green line. So Coach Bundy, thank you very much.
Our next presenter came from quite a ways off. He's a tremendous player for us, I believe. We've been going for almost an hour here, and all of the players that we've had here, and all of the people that we've had in coaching, have alluded to this gentleman each time. The foundation of Bremen football. He coached here for 28 years, 133 wins, 117 losses, 8 ties, and over that time, a 54% winning percentage. He knows all of his accomplishments. You've heard almost all of them here tonight. He's a tremendous man, a great motivator, and again, the basis of Bremen football. I'm pleased to introduce to you a member of the Indiana Hall of Fame, Don Bundy.
Some of these fellows see me gimping up here as I come up on the stage. I can imagine what someone might be thinking. Possibly something I told them a few years ago, and that is, forget it, it'll go away. All these things they said about me and what I accomplished, I didn't accomplish everything I set out to do. Our weight was to speak this evening and be on the program. Maybe we run out of time and I watched my clock and it was getting late. But you can see weight, you'll see that the diet I put on him didn't turn out to be what it should have. But again, I'm want you to know this isn't all about me. It's about those guys who played. They're the ones that made it what it is. This program is something special to show them how much you appreciate what they contributed to the program. Everybody asked me if I had a speech for tonight, if I had any notes. I said, no, I don't take notes. The only time I took notes is when we weren't doing very well the first half, so I could use them at halftime. You don't want to hear all those talks. But, yeah, the birth of football happened approximately 50 years ago, and there's just a handful of us around now. But it grew to be hundreds and hundreds of, I think what Coach Hubert tapped, the long green line. And my son said you should tell some stories, and you've heard enough stories. And I mentioned a couple I might say, or I might tell you. My wife said, you can't tell them that, they'll think you were mean. So that was out. But everything's been said, I think, that has to be said. Really, the mentality of those football players are talking about in the past, I think, was different than it is today. I agree with them with that. If you look back at the scores of games we had for years and years, you'll see there's a lot of zeros there for the opposite team. There were a spring, I think, of 3 years when only 2 teams scored against us at all. And it was really not very often that somebody got 8 touchdowns or more. Maybe later years, later 70s and 80s. And defense is what wins football games. And so I say that mentality, I think, of those guys was something special. Those assistant coaches I had, each one of them had something to contribute. Maybe they weren't all around coach in every way, but they had something to contribute, had something special about them. Some of them provided some humor, some of them some enthusiasm, some of them just the dedication and planning that they did to help. It all helped. And it wasn't all about me, like I said, it's about those guys. And this program's really fitting that they did this for them. I appreciate everything they said tonight, and I appreciate everything those guys did for me. A lot more for me than I could have done for them. Thank you.
The football helmet in front of this podium is a leadership tool. It instills leadership in each one of the kids that puts it on. It's a tool that the coaches use. That's why the face mask is there. They can lead those players wherever they haven't been or should have been on the football field. I think that's what you were alluding to, Don, when you were up here on the one story. I can honestly say that in the time that I've been here at Bremen, the football program, regardless of its record, has been a program of respect. Every opponent knows when we step on the field, they're in for a battle, they're going to get hit. And we need to continue that program. I want to offer my thanks to all of the players who showed up tonight. Even the Swain boys who I tried to separate, knowing what they were when they were going to score. I lost all hope when Klingy came in and sat beside me. All the coaches who coached in Little League programs, and the coaches at the junior high, all the assistant coaches who served under these great men who played or who coached our kids for so many years. I thank you all for coming, and again, I remind you, we'd like to have you out on the field in the section to be introduced at halftime. Thank you for coming, and have a good evening.
And the godfather of the long green line, Coach Don Bungie.
The members present tonight from that first football team: Bill Burgess, Mike Hardy, Mike Heckerman, Tim Munson, Bob Wolf, and Don Marriott. And Phil Hirschberg. From 1958, Jerry Gertner and John Sylvie. From 1959, Dale Allen, Rich Baker, Ted Hewlett, Tony Gunnerman. From 1961, John Burgess, Dick Terry, Burdette Payne, and Jim Morris. And Herman Coffin. From the 1963 team, Larry Angle. From the 1962 team, Herman Coffin. From the 1963 team, Larry Anglin. From the 1965 team, Keith Kaufman, Tom Keck, Don Miller, John Pfeiffer, and Conrad Tucker. From the 1966 team, Bill Miller. From the 1967 team, John Polson and Mark Wagner. From the 1968 team, Paul Hunt, Otis Scoots, and Tony Leeper. From the 1971 team, Jeff Dietrich, Max Huff. From the 1972 team, Terry Sullivan. From the 1973 team, Terry Graverson. From the 1974 team, Gary Lieber and Joe Martin. From the 1975 team, Doug Fleming. From the 1976 team, Steven Stitcher, Mike Swain. From the 1977 team, Roger Sticker and Dan Swain. From the 1978 team, Wade Hall, Jay Leeper, Mike Moback, and Dale Miller. From the 1979 team, Kent Allen, Todd Graverson, Robin Hunt, Tim Spichter, and Andy Swain.
1970-17, John Bollinger. From the 1980 team, John DeClark, Tom Hawkins, Todd Hunt, Lane Saloff, and Jamie Stone. From the 1981 team, Ty Baker, Rob Bloom, Jay Bundy, Joe Detweiler, Troy Heckerman, John LaFree, Chris McFerrin, Scott Manning, and Paul Swain. From the 1982 team, Troy Holmes. From the 1983 team, Greg Adams. From the 1984 team, Brent Snyder and Shane Weitzel. From 1985, Chris Hunt. From 1986, John Hirschberger, Mike Swift, and Mike Zimmerman. From 1987, Kerry Zelmer and Chris Zelmer. From 1988, Matt Koppel, Jerry Miller, and Coach John Cusella. From 1989, Mike Shoemaker, Harry Stein, and Brian Mann. From 1990, Chad Baker and Troy Coughlin. From 1993, Travis Kincaid. From 1994, Ryan O'Keefe. From 1995, Joe Stiles. From 1996, Aaron Baker and Marty Graverson. From 1997, Jesse Bohannon and Adam Yoder. From 1999, Levi Hazen, Mark May, Dustin Saloff, and Josh Walter. From the football team of 2000, Kevin Folsom. From the class of 2002, or excuse me, the football team of 2002, Zach Hunt and Jordan Leeper. From the football team of 2004, Brad Leeper, Nate Phillips, and Ricky Sumter. And Tim Stillwell. From
from the 2005 football team, Marty Andrews, Aaron Brock, Nick Irvin, and Austin Hofstetler. And Rob Zeltman. And from the 2016, Mitch Hubert, Chase Hunter, and Brian May.